get in my feelings. We ain't crime by no nigga. We ain't rhyme by no nigga. Hot spine on no nigga. Let's go get some money and get fine on these niggas. When it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 niggas.
A rapper's family speaking out after she was found shot to death in Atlanta. Why they say she was targeted.
A white Range Rover stopped dead in the middle of a residential street, 1:23 in the morning, and inside, a woman who was just getting started. April 8th, 2026, Southeast Atlanta, the 2,900 block of Springside Place, SE. That street was dead quiet at that hour. The kind of quiet where nothing feels out of place until the shots rang out. At 1:23 a.m., 911 calls started flooding in. Gunfire on Springside Place. Officers arrived at 1:30 a.m. 7 minutes. That's all the time it took for that block to change forever. What they found stopped them cold. A white Range Rover Sport, $80,000 vehicle sitting in the middle of the road. Not parked, not pulled over. Just stopped. Right there. Like whoever was driving it never got the chance to go anywhere else. Inside the front seat, they found her. Qualicia Barnes, 36 years old, Detroit native. Known as Siditty, shot multiple times. In the face, 4 times to be exact. I need you to sit with that detail because 4 shots concentrated to one person's face is not a stray bullet. That's not a robbery gone wrong. That means something. And we're going to get into exactly what investigators believe it means. But here's the part that hit different. Qualeisha was 14 weeks pregnant. So on the morning of April 8th, Atlanta PD wasn't working one homicide. They were working 2. A mother and a child who never got the chance to take a single breath outside of her. Now hold on to this question as we move through the story, because it sits at the center of everything. Who knew she would be on that street, at that hour, in that car? A car doesn't stop itself in the middle of a road. The shooter fired from outside the vehicle. No signs of struggle inside, no carjacking. This was planned. This was personal. And her mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, went on camera and said something that tells you she already knows more than she's saying publicly. She's not naming names yet. But by the time we get to what she actually said, you'll feel exactly why. Stay with me all the way to the end of this video because I'll be sharing 2 safety tips rooted directly in what happened to Qualeisha. The kind that could genuinely matter for you or someone you love. But first, I need to show you who was actually in that car. Because Qualicia Barnes and Siditty were the same person? Yes. But the life she was building? The headlines haven't come close to capturing it. Welcome to True Crime Footprint, where we unveil the darkest mysteries and the most terrifying true crime tales. Kindly hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. Before we talk about who killed her, you need to understand who she was. Because once you see the full picture, the weight of this loss hits completely different. Qualicia Barnes grew up in Detroit, Michigan. And if you know anything about Detroit, you know that city doesn't raise soft people. It raises people who know how to build something out of nothing. People who figure it out regardless of the circumstances. That's the mentality she carried when she packed up and made the move to Atlanta around 2016. Atlanta made sense. It always makes sense for women like her. The city had infrastructure for independent artists, room for entrepreneurs, and a culture that rewards ambition if you're willing to put in the work. Qualicia was absolutely willing. She built 3 things simultaneously, and I want you to really hear that, not one. And her 3, first, she was a rapper. Operating under the name Siditty, she was active in both the Detroit and Atlanta independent music scenes. Not signed, not backed by a label, building it herself, song by song, show by show. Second, she was a CEO. She founded So Siditty Boutique, an online fashion and beauty brand that reflected exactly who she was. Her mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, described her simply, she loved makeup, she loved dressing up, she loved beauty. The boutique wasn't just a side hustle, it was a brand extension of her whole identity. Third, and this is the part that most people aren't leading with, she was a nursing student, on the dean's list, 2 semesters away from graduating. At 36, she was actively transitioning toward a career in healthcare while maintaining everything else. And that's not something a person does without serious discipline and a clear vision for their future. And she was 14 weeks pregnant. So let's be honest about what that picture looks like. A woman running a boutique, recording music, maintaining a dean's list GPA, and preparing to bring a child into the world, all at the same time. Her sister Shatara Davis said something that stayed with me. She said, "I know her as Qualeisha. We in the same house, in the same bed. Not Siditty, not the rapper, not the CEO, just her sister, the person who cracked jokes constantly, who made her mother laugh, who was just real. That's the woman who was in that Range Rover." Now here's what I want you to think about, because this becomes important later. She had a public presence. Instagram, the boutique, the music. Her lifestyle was visible. Her car was visible. Her success was visible. And in the weeks before April 8th, someone was paying very close attention to all of it. After her death, Detroit Got Talent posted a tribute calling her a queen. 2 cities stopped. 2 communities grieved because she belonged to both of them. But visibility has a cost. And in Qualeisha's case, that cost may have been steeper than anyone around her realized. Here's what I keep coming back to. The crime scene on Springside Place doesn't look like an accident. It doesn't look like a wrong place, wrong time situation. And when you understand the forensic details of what actually happened outside that Range Rover, the picture gets a lot colder. That's exactly where we're going next.
Developing news tonight, a pregnant rapper from Detroit is murdered in Atlanta. She was shot 4 times in the face this week. And her family tells us they have a good idea why she was targeted and killed. Know her as Qualicia Barnes. Followers of Detroit and Atlanta hip-hop know her as Siditty.
Probably because I know I'm worth a milli.
Qualeisha and her family are all from Southwest Detroit. She's been in Atlanta for a decade. The 36-year-old was 14 weeks pregnant, shot 4 times in the face in the middle of the night while in a car in Atlanta this week.
I heard gunshots, like maybe 4 or 5 gunshots, and then a car, Honda, just flew up the street. Like 20, 30 minutes later, the cops everywhere.
Atlanta police say it looks like someone shot through the windshield and drove off. They're using security video to piece it all together. Qualicia's family says she was targeted because she was pregnant.
We've got a general idea of the route that was taken, so we're going to have to backtrack some information to figure out the exact circumstance, if anybody was with her or not.
On top of her music, Qualeisha was 2 semesters out from earning a nursing degree that will never be. Family, though, says they're going to get whoever did this.
Let's talk about what the evidence actually tells us, because this scene was not chaotic, it was calculated. Start with the vehicle. A white Range Rover Sport stopped in the middle of Springside Place SE. Not at a stop sign, not at a light, right in the middle of the road. When investigators see a vehicle positioned like that, the first question they ask is simple. Why did it stop there? There are really only 2 answers. Either something forced it to stop, meaning someone cut it off, flagged it down, or blocked its path. Or the driver lost consciousness mid-drive from the initial shots. Either way, both answers point to the same conclusion. Qualeisha did not choose to stop there. Someone else made that decision for her. The shooter fired from outside the vehicle. That detail matters more than it sounds. It rules out a confrontation that started inside the car. Whoever did this was standing outside that Range Rover when they pulled the trigger. They approached the car, or they were waiting for it. 4 shots, all to the face. In criminal profiling, facial targeting carries a specific meaning. It's personal. It's about more than ending someone's life. It's about erasing them, about rage that goes beyond just wanting them gone. Investigators working cases with this kind of wound pattern almost always look first at people with deep personal grievances, people who felt humiliated, betrayed, or threatened by the victim. This was not a robbery. Nothing was reported taken. This was not random. The location, the timing, the method, none of it supports random. Atlanta Police Lieutenant Christopher Butler is leading this investigation. He's been leaning heavily on Operation Shield, Atlanta's citywide surveillance network. Thousands of cameras pulling license plate data, tracking movement across the metro area. The primary goal right now is retracing the Range Rover's movements in the hours before 1:23 a.m. Where did she come from? Was another vehicle following her? At what point did this night turn? Her Instagram, her DMs, her tagged posts, all of it has become what investigators essentially treat as a second crime scene. Because in 2026, your digital life tells a story your phone calls don't always catch. Any conflict, any tension, any exchange that escalated in the weeks before April 8th is now evidence. Here's what I want you to stop and think about right now. Qualicia's mother, Francine Lopez Stewart, did not go on camera and say, "I have no idea why this happened." She said, and I'm going to quote this carefully because the wording is everything, "If you instigate something that causes a murder, you need to go to jail too." Instigate. That word is deliberate. That is a grieving mother who has a specific picture in her mind of how this was set in motion. She's not describing a random shooter. She's describing a chain of people. Someone who lit the match and someone who threw it. As of mid-April 2026, no arrests have been made. No suspects named publicly. But the APD is not treating this case as cold. They are actively requesting tips through Crime Stoppers Atlanta at 404-577-TIPS. Anonymous. Potentially rewarded. Someone on that street or someone who knows someone connected to that street knows something. And here's the part that should sit with you. So did Qualeisha in the weeks before she died. There's a strong possibility she felt something coming and didn't know how seriously to take it. Or maybe she did take it seriously and didn't have the tools to protect herself. Which is exactly why what comes next in this story matters beyond just the facts of this case. Let's start with what the law says. Because the person or people who did this aren't just facing a murder charge. Under Georgia Code Section 16-5-80, the willful killing of an unborn child through injury to the mother is classified as feticide. Qualeisha was 14 weeks pregnant. That pregnancy was known. That means whoever pulled that trigger didn't just take one life under the law. They took two. We're talking about a potential death penalty case. Life imprisonment, consecutive sentencing for both counts. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office treats dual homicide cases at the highest level of priority, and this one sits squarely in that category. The legal weight here is enormous, and it will only grow once an arrest is made. Now let's talk about the family, because behind every case number is a household that will never be the same. Francine Lopez Stewart, Qualicia's mother, described her daughter as a jokester, someone who was always cracking jokes on her. Think about that for a second. The same woman found in that Range Rover was somebody's reason to laugh every single day. Francine knows more than she's saying publicly. She's navigating that line between what she knows and what she can say without compromising the investigation. That takes a kind of strength most people will never have to find. Shatara Davis, Qualicia's sister, keeps pulling the focus back to who her sister actually was beneath everything else. Not the brand, not the music, just her. They shared a home, shared a bed. That kind of closeness doesn't have a replacement. It just leaves a gap that stays there. And the grief is doubled in the most painful way possible. They didn't just lose Qualeisha. They lost the baby too. A grandchild that Francine will never hold. A niece Shatara will never meet. 14 weeks along means that child had a heartbeat, had a future being planned for them. Gone. The family's message on social media was simple and raw. Y'all didn't have to do her like that. No, they didn't. Now, I promised you 2 safety tips at the start of this video, and I keep my word. These come directly from what this case reveals. Not general advice, specific, actionable things rooted in exactly how this situation unfolded. Safety tip 1. Stop broadcasting your location in real time. Qualeisha had an active public presence. Her car, her lifestyle, her movements were visible online. Posting your location while you're still there, tagging where you are before you leave, consistently showing your vehicle and your patterns gives people a roadmap to you. Post after you've left, not while you're there. That one habit change closes a door that most people don't even realize is open. Safety. Tip 2. If something feels wrong while you're driving, do not go home. The way that Range Rover was positioned suggests Qualeisha may have been followed or intercepted before she could react. If you're ever driving late and something feels off, a car behind you that's been there too long, a route that doesn't feel right, do not lead that situation to your home or anywhere private. Drive directly to a police station, a 24-hour gas station, anywhere populated. Stay on the phone with someone. Your instincts are faster than your logic sometimes. Trust them. Those 2 things. Remember them. Because what happened to Qualeisha didn't start at 1:23 a.m. It started earlier, maybe days earlier, maybe weeks. And there may have been a moment somewhere in that timeline where a different decision could have changed everything. We're almost at the end of this story, but the final chapter is the one that's going to stay with you. Let's zoom out for a moment, because Qualicia's story doesn't exist in isolation. Homicide is one of the leading causes of death for pregnant women in the United States. Not illness, not complications, homicide. That statistic should stop everyone cold, and it almost never gets the attention it deserves. Qualicia Barnes is now part of that number, a number that keeps growing while the conversation around it stays quiet. In cases like this one, the random violence theory collapses fast when you look at the actual evidence. The vehicle stopped mid-road, the shooter positioned outside, 4 shots to the face, a mother who uses the word instigate on camera. None of that points to random. All of it points to premeditation, to planning, to someone who decided before April 8th that Qualicia Barnes needed to be gone. When the $80,000 Range Rover has come up repeatedly in coverage of this case, and yes, it signals success. It signals that she had built something real since leaving Detroit. But in certain environments, visible success can generate a different kind of attention. Resentment, jealousy, the feeling that someone is moving too fast, doing too well, standing too tall. That's not an excuse for what happened. It's an observation about the world she was navigating. She was navigating it well by every measure. Dean's List, active boutique, music career, baby on the way, 2 semesters from a nursing degree. That is a woman with momentum. That is a woman whose future was accelerating. And the same platform that helped her build that momentum, her social media, her public image, her digital presence, may have handed someone a blueprint they had no business having. That's the paradox she was living inside. And it's one that thousands of independent artists and entrepreneurs, particularly women, navigate every single day without realizing the exposure it creates. As of mid-April 2026, no arrests have been made. The case is open. The APD is still processing footage, tracing the Range Rover's path, and working through digital evidence. Lieutenant Christopher Butler has asked the community directly for help. If you know anything, Crime Stoppers Atlanta will take your tip anonymously. The number is 404-577-TIPS. Someone knows something.
Developing news tonight, a pregnant rapper from Detroit is murdered in Atlanta. She was shot 4 times in the face this week. And her family tells us they have a good idea why she was targeted and killed. Know her as Qualicia Barnes. Followers of Detroit and Atlanta hip-hop know her as Siditty.
Probably because I know I'm worth a milli.
Qualeisha and her family are all from Southwest Detroit. She's been in Atlanta for a decade. The 36-year-old was 14 weeks pregnant, shot 4 times in the face in the middle of the night while in a car in Atlanta this week.
I heard gunshots, like maybe 4 or 5 gunshots, and then a car, Honda, just flew up the street. Like 20, 30 minutes later, the cops everywhere.
Atlanta police say it looks like someone shot through the windshield and drove off. They're using security video to piece it all together. Qualicia's family says she was targeted because she was pregnant.
We've got a general idea of the route that was taken, so we're going to have to backtrack some information to figure out the exact circumstance, if anybody was with her or not.
On top of her music, Qualicia was 2 semesters out from earning a nursing degree that will never be. Family, though, says they're going to get whoever did this.
In cases like this, they always do. The question is whether that person decides that justice for Qualicia and for her unborn child is worth the discomfort of coming forward. I think it is. I think most people, if they're being honest, know it is too. Qualicia Barnes was 2 semesters away from becoming a nurse. She had a boutique. She had music. She had a baby coming. She had a plan, a real one. And someone looked at all of that and decided it was a threat. To the family of Qualicia Barnes, to Francine, to Shatara, and to everyone who loved her, Qualicia and the child she was carrying deserved to see every single one of those dreams through. The world is quieter without her in it. May you find the justice, the peace, and the answers you deserve. She will not be forgotten. To everyone who made it to the end, thank you for watching, for your attention, and for joining us on this journey of reflection. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and above all, stay safe. See you on our next video.